So anyway, so I really will. I'm here to talk and when I was in school studying with poets, for the most part, universally, I felt like I was desperately thirsty, and my poets and my teachers were feeding me with an eyedropper, you know. And you know, I wanted to know everything that they knew. You know, I had a pretty serious feeling that they knew a lot more than they were telling, and they were so stingy. So you can ask me anything, absolutely anything. I will tell you anything that doesn't involve disclosure of a felony. No, I'll tell you anything that I can tell you. So you can really feel free to ask me. So let's talk. Ask me anything. Yes.
You mentioned voice. People often say about writers, and it's usually critics or other people talking about them, you know, he found his voice here, and then after that, that was his voice. And you have a very distinctive voice running throughout most of your known body of work. Did you have a conscious moment of being like, oh, this is what I sound like? And do you remember that, or was it just sort of a gradual thing that happened? Or
yeah, pretty gradual, and also, you know, that's a very good question. You know, that idea of voice, it really connects with the idea of self. You know, and you know, so it's a compliment. You have a distinctive voice, it's like saying you have a distinctive self. You know, but it's cobbled together. You know, I think that's how it happened for me, and that's how I think it probably happens for most people. Yes?
A lot of our professors and a lot of poets that I know talk a lot about their reading habits, both reading for sort of their strengths and the things that they like, and then also reading against themselves and reading for things that challenge them and that are very different. So can you maybe talk a little bit about your reading habits and how that filters into both your poetry and your criticism?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I tell my own students, I say, you know, you can eat junk food all day long, but you should eat some fruits and vegetables as well. Don't, those empty calories, you know, are going to get you into trouble, Daryl. And so I think it is good to read, to read good poetry. But the problem is when you're a young reader, you don't exactly know what that means. And you only have the sometimes misguided teachers to direct you towards. But hey, it's all you've got, so you just should make the most of it.
So you bring up the excitement of writing a poem in couplets, and a lot of your poems are, completely free, if we want to use that term. And then
completely what?
Free, if we want to use that term.
Free verse, you mean?
Right, free verse. But then you write in couplets and quatrains into your sets at times. And I'm wondering at what point in your drafting process does form and shape play a large role? Is it in the beginning, in the middle, towards the end,
Well, that's a good question. Thank God for stanzas, because I'm a formless person, and we live in a time. I was weaned in a time of free verse. The upside was that you could say anything. The downside was that you never knew where the beginning, middle, and end of the poem were. And so there was a certain kind. Okay, just go on as long as you want. So it's almost always an imposition. And stanzas are pretty much it. I mean, I have some consciousness now. You keep on learning. I have some consciousness now of stresses and things like that. But, I really was, I was taught to write, or rather not taught to write, in a time when anything was permissible and not very, I wish I'd been taught prosody. I wish I'd been capable of learning it earlier. Anyway, so it's about pacing, and it's about pacing and timing and proportioning out the information in a poem.
What attracts you to abstract similes, such as "and time stopped right over our heads like a little red car," and other instances in your poems where you take something that's a feeling or an abstraction and make it concrete and make it visible? And what do you think the effect on the poem? What do you think that effect has on the poem?
Well, it makes it makes it possible to say abstractions, without without being vague and useless. It makes things vivid. Image was, as I say, image was and still is the sort of main thing that I can do. So that's where the imagination plays in image, and it's sort of the one place in poems, or one of the two places in poems, that I can actually get loose, because I'm actually a very willful writer, and rather rationalistic.